Hey, Cincinnati, welcome to another episode, a special Thursday night episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. The reason we're doing this is, I don't know if you know this, there was a game last night at TQL Stadium that brought in, I think, a 13th seeded team from the Western Conference, FC Dallas, to the second ranked team in the Eastern Conference in Cincinnati. We put 3 goals on the board. Also gave up 3 goals in the second half to this team. And there was one player on the pitch that everybody was talking about in Dado Valenzuela. And another one named Lucho Acosta, which we will talk plenty about tonight on episode 422 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I'm here with a great cast tonight, Josh Dye and Nathan Forstoffel. Glad you guys are here. Thanks for joining me tonight on this episode. Nathan, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Good to see you guys. I know it's been a couple weeks. Glad to hop back on. No, we didn't get quite the result that we wanted to, but it's definitely interesting. We're getting to a really interesting part of the season as we're approaching the halfway point.
We certainly are, and we'll talk about all of that tonight and how we dig ourselves out of this spot moving forward. Josh, welcome back, man. It's good to have you always on Thursdays this year.
Yeah, I'm the Thursday hitter here. Bring it in for the weird midweek games, or you see your rotation, you see your crazy results, you see all the nonsense happening everywhere. So I gotta fill in. And I'm happy to bring the energy on a Thursday, and not so happy to see FC Cincinnati just pick up on the weird vibes that a Wednesdays bring. So we'll figure it out. We'll sort through it. It's probably not going to be fun.
We'll figure it out. Much like maybe Dado, maybe you're working for that starting spot here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk.
That, or if I don't, maybe Monday will open up for me sometime in 2026. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. Well, always good to have you. These Thursday night shows are always a little bit different than the Monday night ones, and we love what we get to do here on Mondays and Thursdays. So, hey, we've got to thank our sponsor before we get too deep in this show of Apollo Home. Thanks, Apollo. FCC looked uncomfortable away from home over the weekend, and our defense looked a little uncomfortable in the second half of last night's match. And we want you to stay comfortable in your home with a $29 HVAC cooling tune-up from Apollo Home. Also, just for CST listeners, Apollo Home is offering a $1,101 off a new AC unit. That's right. That's $1,101 off. That's a heck of a coupon, and that's CST's gift just for you. Give Apollo a call, send them a text, or schedule online at apollohome.com. All right. Thanks, Apollo, for your support of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Always appreciated. And, you always get to hear our best and our worst here at the top of the show, right after the Apollo home read. And so, Josh, best and worst, we're going to start with you because sometimes you bring some passion. Tonight, we'll see what you got.
Just the way that the game went, it was, the storylines were mild. I wasn't fired up at all about anything that anyone said post game or anything. It was fine. It was a nice, mild day. So my best was the first half control that FC Cincinnati showed. That looked like the team that everyone has said this is how this team's going to dominate. This is how this team's going to run through teams. Methodical, finding the space, finding the runs, attacking teams, I think is the big thing there, going direct instead of kind of plotting their way through back and forth until they hit a ball, until somebody makes some individual magic. That was both goals in the first half were direct plays, guys attacking bylines, guys attacking open space, threw balls into space. It looked nice. It looked very pretty. We will obviously get to more of what went wrong in the second half later, but the first half at least gave me some serious hope. The worst is something else that we'll get into a little bit later, but it is the aforementioned Lucho Acosta making his return to TQL Stadium, receiving the reception that I predicted that he would, just because of the way that he handled his exit in Cincinnati. And then just once again having complete just oblivious idea or anything about what transpired and then how he exited the team, and his comments after the game being surprised that he got booed, being saying that's shameful, saying that this fan base should be grateful. Lots of comments that I had some choice words about in our chat. So we'll get to them. I will hold off. I'll drink some water, rest my voice a little bit, and then we'll get there. But yeah, Lucho Acosta.
You're holding
once again is my worst.
You're holding your tongue quite well this early in the show. Thanks for that. And we'll like I said, you'll have your opportunity. Hey, if you're watching us live, we'd love to get your best and worst. Drop that in the chat, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. Throw those up on the screen. We do have one here from our very own Jose, who also was very passionate about the match. Jose says his best is Buka and Obi playing very well, with special mention to Yedlin. And his worst was another embarrassing performance in not defending the lead. No doubt. And we'll talk, why is that? Like, we'll ask that question later in the show, why Cincinnati seems to not be able to hang on to a lead this season. Nathan, while we're waiting on some other best and worst, I'm going to jump to you.
Yeah, no, my best and worst this week it's kind of a tale of two youngsters this week. We have mentioned at the top of the show, the star of the match, right? Dado Valenzuela. He continues to roll, right? He has got his fourth goal of the year. He kind of has a knack for finding those game winners late in games. And he almost had one on Wednesday. Unfortunately, he was spoiled, but I know you, Brian, identified him early in the season as a breakout candidate.
Can you say that again, Nathan, just for the people in the back that didn't hear it?
Brian identified him as a breakout candidate. Yeah, you had it. You hit it right on the head, right? And he's continuing to see good form him, right? Especially late in games, is getting opportunities, and he's making the most of a lot of his opportunities that he's getting. On the flip side, right? And I will probably talk about this a lot later. Flores, right? I think Dallas identified him early on as a weakness on that back line, right? That's been shaken up with the injury to Nick Hagelin. And he was pressured early. He was pressured often. Every single time he got the ball, it seemed like there was a guy right on top of him. Kid really had a lot of brutal mistakes down the stretch, especially the one that allowed that goal in the second half, where he's pinched too far over, out of position. He just looks lost a lot. And I feel for the kid. I do. I know it's a big jump to Major League Soccer, but we really need better on that side.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I joke about Dado Valenzuela a lot because, like, to be able to like say that early on and have his performances so far. I said the same thing, to be fair, about Kimi Ordonez last year. And so I'm batting about like 500 right here. So I've got to have a good season on this one. So
hey, that's a Hall of Fame average, 500.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it.
You can't get home runs without taking a few swings. So
that's right.
Hey,
that's right. No
swing
doubt.
away.
I'm gonna throw a few more from the chat up here. From Rupesh, he says his best is Dado. Heck yeah, and worst, the left side of the defense, which Nathan, you hit on as well there. Nacion FCC, our friends over there, who actually had Jose on their program earlier tonight, just before this show. So be sure to check them out. And this last episode, they say their best, Yedlin and Powell, the worst, the bench. We don't have a bench that can help close a game, which is interesting because our bench started on that back line this week, and Powell was one of the best, I think, out there. So beyond that, you're right. Like it gets pretty thin beyond that. Yeah. Best from Justin Blair. Nick's surgery went well. Hey, that's a good shout there. Worst is captain center back was on the bench while our defense fell apart, no doubt. And that was, a struggle late in the game. My best this week is we put 3 goals on the board. And we have been talking about this offense that's not clicking. And I still don't think they're clicking to the level that they could. And we'll talk later about that and what the team needs to do to see that more consistently. From our perspective anyway, but they put 3 goals on the board. Most of the time when you put 3 goals up, averages, you are going to win that game. And again, unfortunately, it was because of a major collapse on the defensive side of the ball. Was horrendous. So my worst, just like was it Rupesh that said it, the left side of the defense, the gaps on the left side with Orishano and Flores. And I think part of that is Orishano was pushing really high on that left side because we needed someone who could cross the ball with their left foot, and Flores wasn't filling the gaps. I don't think that partnership has not really been developed. I don't know if I could be wrong. I don't know if they've played much on the same side of the pitch this year for very long anyway. I think there's been moments, but that partnership definitely on the left side has not been developed. And so that could have played into that for sure. One more here from our own Jeff Tebbets. He says, best, Dotto is on fire. And his worst is having to work overtime in the box and with 2 jersey swap episodes. So good shout there. I know Jeff just recorded another jersey swap just before we went live here for the DC United match. So be sure to check that out later this week when that releases. All right. Hey, we got some good best and worst. We've got a lot to talk about. I think those best and worst, as they always do, tee us up for some good conversation. So as we jump into the recap of the match, a little bit deeper dive into the match against FC Dallas, we have Buka on the board in the 30th minute with a goal, own goal, whatever. They called it a goal. I think it was going in. I think it's the right call. Deflected off a defender on the opposite side. Denke with a penalty in the 42nd minute, which... if you were to believe the commentators in that moment, if you guys were watching that match live, there's no way that gets called. There's no way that gets called. And certainly it gets called. Like his ankle was grabbed or whatever. So we've got that. 42nd minute, Denke scores. Dallas comes back after halftime, the 50th minute, another in the 68th minute, and then Dotto with what looks like the game winner in the 86th minute. Dotto Valenzuela, the hero, the savior, is what they called him on the broadcast. The savior of this team that could give him his 3rd game-winning goal, I think, out of his 4 this season. Pretty phenomenal. And then only at the death to lose in the 92nd minute, or to get the draw in the 92nd minute. Guys, it was a roller coaster of a match that I thought in the first half, I almost messaged everyone in our group to say, look, this game's going to be 4-0. Like I'm watching on my phone, headed back from my son's awards ceremony and trying to get home to finish watching it. And I'm like, this game's in the bag already. First half of the game, are you guys on board with me? Are you thinking the same thing, or in the back of your heads going, we could lose this just like we always do?
I don't think there was there was definitely not even a thought of like, okay, this is going to be one of those weird, wacky Wednesday games where you're going to need to score 5 because they're going to score 4. Like it was definitely not like I said, my best, like this team looked in complete control. There were still some moments that I thought could definitely be better, but you saw the sum of the parts working together. Like
Yep.
The second goal, the Denke penalty goal stuck out to me because that was everything that this team has been promised to be, in the sense that they were going to absorb some pressure, and then they're going to strike you on the counter in like 4 passes. So the sequence starts on a foul, and then it's a quick ball, and Obi takes the ball center field, makes one cut, gets fouled, but gets the ball to Evander, and Evander just turns, picks up his head, and immediately hits a sprinting Denke up the left side. And I'm like, oh my God, in 3 passes, this is everything that, like, this is it. Like, and of course he picks up the penalty, but if he doesn't pick up the penalty, he's deking the goalkeeper, and it's at that point, you're hoping it's just a tapping goal or someone's going to finish the sequence out. But that was it. I was like, okay, 42nd minute, this team looks stable. This is in control now. We can go into the second half, especially when they scored that second goal. You're going right into halftime. That's the kiss of death for teams, right? A team who's struggling, only down 1 in FC Dallas, and then hey, if we can just get to the half down 1, we got a chance here, and then boom, penalty, change the game, flip the script, 2-0. You got the team on the ropes, and you can really knock out punch here coming out in the second half. So what happened in the second half, we'll break down and try to do our best guess, but no, that first half was everything this team was built to be, and then some, maybe.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, to clarify my statement, I think there was another call that about the penalty. I think there was another one late in the game that Denke was trying to get. The commentators were like, no, there's no way that
Yeah.
gets called. Yeah, the first one was obvious. The second one, maybe not so much. Nathan, there was a guy on the pitch that we alluded to earlier named Lucho Acosta, playing for FC Dallas at TQL Stadium, comes out firing early in the game. What do you think of his performance, at least early on, to set the tone for the match?
Well, funny enough, he commits a foul in the first minute. Like, you committing a foul in the first minute, that's already setting the tone. And almost in an expected way, right? You see Alvis Powell come flying in the second minute, taking him completely out. And you knew that, there was going to be some degree of competitiveness and bad blood with his return, but it set the tone for the game. And it's interesting, though. I think it set the tone for the teams. Acosta was really neutralized most of the night. I mean, it had a few through balls that were effective, but didn't end up leading to anything more than a chance, right? He really wasn't. He was neutralized through most of the night. So while that return, I think it's an emotional return, obviously, for this fan base, for him as a team. He really, most of his return was pretty settled, funny enough.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting as he took out Alvis Powell and turned around immediately, helped him up. And then Alvis Powell did the old sweep the legs, right? And like lifted him off the ground and just ran by him like, welcome back to Cincinnati. Was pretty fantastic.
There was two moments in that sequence that because I just watched it back a couple of minutes ago because I wanted to watch that first half again to make sure my eyes weren't cheating me about how good they looked. The foul, Alvis Powell lifts him and throws him down, and then gives him a little look down, like a little stare down of like, welcome back. Like
he was running
by him. He looks down at him like the old basketball like and then just kind of glares and I was like, oh, just beautiful. Oh, it was so good. But the other thing that caught my attention was some of the comments from the broadcast. So they had talked to Pat Noonan, and Pat Noonan gave an interesting quote according to the broadcast that was, there was some people in there who were dying to get into that game, that if we did, we might overlook the big picture. So I started putting some thoughts together of like, did Matt Miazga pray to get into that game? Just to say, like, knowing that, hey, Matt, we're going to sit you down for this one just to get, and then Matt Miazga would kill, again, this is me speculating, but like, would that not be the most Matt Miazga thing ever to say, like, coach, I need to get in this game. I need 10 minutes with Lucho coming at me just to remind him what's up. Like, I just thought that was an interesting little comment of like, you're saying somebody specifically wanted to be in that game, but we gotta look at the big picture. And there was one guy missing, so I just thought that was funny. It was funny.
Let's hang out here for just 1 second. I don't want to dwell too long on that, but in our episode on Monday, right, we talked about is Matt up to full speed yet? Is Matt 100%? And so I wonder if Noonan might have put him in if he was 100%, but if he goes at a Lucho Acosta and Lucho like somehow runs between his legs or runs around him or does whatever Lucho does and leaves Matt in the dust, there is no forgiveness for that. Like that is you just put your star defender on his butt potentially. I don't want to hang out here too much, but I wonder if that was part of it. Like,
sure,
if he was there,
like again, I have no evidence, I have no facts. There's nothing. This is all purely speculative. But it was just like that. Yeah, that's gotta be. Yeah, Rupesh, you're probably right. I probably speculate too much. It's just it was a fun thought exercise that I had when I heard those comments, and then quickly reminded. Who is not in this lineup that would want to? Oh, yeah. Right.
All right, so I want to hold the thought on Lucho because we want to come back to that. We're going to have a whole segment talking about Lucho's return because I know that's what everybody wants to hear about. But we do have a match to finish talking about. The first half was was off the charts, right? Cincinnati scoring goals are up 2-0. The second half begins, and we see this total collapse, it looks like. Now, if you were, I'm going to put this up on the screen. I just screenshotted this from SofaScore, and I just want to show this. It was the match momentum. The top half, it's a little pixelated, is Cincinnati, and the bottom half there is FC Dallas. And Cincinnati has, I think, was it 63% possession. Momentum is going their way. If you look at Dallas's second goal, like they just got the ball, went forward, and they scored. Right? There's no momentum there. There's just a little dip in that graph. And so we could say total collapse, but there were moments where there was total collapse on that back line, right? So if you look at it, take a step back, this back line did look a little shaky, but it was primarily that left side of the back line where there were major gaps and holes. So I'm curious, like we talk about Lucho Acosta a lot on this show. And is he the same Luca that we saw last year? We switched him. Pat Noonan switched him to the left side of the pitch this week. His performance offensively looked pretty decent. He's getting down the line. He's getting balls across, but he wasn't getting back on defense. What do you think about Luca's performance moving to the left? Again, I know a couple weeks ago I even applauded his defensive work on the right side, taking the ball, moving upfield. It seemed like, to me, my observation is on the left side, he was very comfortable, and I'm just going to go high because I can send the ball. I don't need to track back on defense. Did you guys see something similar in that, or was it more on Flores not shifting?
I think a lot of it goes to the youngster Flores. I think he did. I think Orishano. I think he might be a little overly confident on that side. He clearly feels comfortable on that side with that rocket of the left foot of his, right? And I will say, right, I don't think we restructured his deal, right, at the end of the year, right, to meet his needs and fit him under the cap to play defense. Like I don't think that was the primarily goal of that, right? You're looking at more of a Barreal 2.0, right, with him out on that left side. And so, look at this, right? He has the capacity to make a lot of remarkable passes. You see flash of it, right? And he has good vision when he looks up, right? But does that still give him the excuse not to track back? Absolutely not, right? And so this is just compounding issues, right? When you have Flores on that side with a shifted back line, right? It just makes those mistakes kind of unforgivable on that side, right? But it makes it a little easier, right, if that gets paired with some additional service for Denke or for Evander, right? Or if it's paired with a goal, right? Those are a little easier to swallow. But you're hoping to see more production out of him if he is on that side, because especially in the second half, we just didn't see that service.
Yeah, I want to throw a comment up here that Cliff just dropped. He says he had different thoughts about the first half. Buka scores, Denke does too, but off a penalty. No Evander goals, no Denke goals in the run of play. Good score, not the way, but the way we got there was not expected, right? And so I will say this, like in response to that, Buka scores. I love that. But Buka scores because there's an opening because Denke's drawing players to the far post. If you watch his movement inside the box, he's drawing players. The ball drops in to Buka off of a incredible touch off a cross, and then a volley backwards from Yedlin to Buka to finish that. So your striker doesn't always score. Your striker draws attention away from other players sometimes for Buka to score. So good on him for that. And he gets the penalty because he breaks free, right? And he would have scored that, no doubt, had the keeper not brought him down on that. So, just a comment on that I think Denke was doing some good work, whether he scored in the run of play or not. Evander was a little bit of a different story. Josh, your take on going back to the left side of the pitch with Orishano and Flores and the gaps that we saw in the second half there.
Yeah, I think you guys hit it kind of on the head of like, I think he looked comfortable there. I think you saw him doing the things that Pat Noonan kind of wanted him to be in that attacking kind of role. They've clearly been missing that kind of offensive threat. Engel has been fine. He has not really brought in the offensive prowess that maybe some might thought he could have in terms of the balance between defense and offense that he was known for.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't excuse him not being able to track back. And you're putting a 20-year-old kid who's in his first major, first big career move outside of his home country on an island to cover a lot of space. And yeah, he's gonna learn. Like I don't think I don't like yes, you fault Flores for the mistakes he made. He had a very roller coaster game. In the exact same goal that Julio scores in the 68th minute, Flores stopped it in the first half. There was the exact same play where the ball was shifted to the right side. They hit a diagonal ball to a streaking Julio, and Flores turns, tracks him, and plays the ball out and stops the attack. And it's a corner kick for Dallas, but it stops the attack. And then the second half, he just doesn't look for whatever reason. So I give him some pass, but yeah, Luka. I want to see Luka on the left side with somebody like Hadebe, I guess, who it would be now, behind him. Somebody more stable, somebody more experienced, somebody that can understand really more, is more comfortable in that role that Flores was in, because I liked what I saw from Luka attacking. I liked him not being so one-dimensional where he's going to get the ball on the right side, he's going to dribble, attack at guys, he's going to cut to his left, and he's going to rip a shot from the top of the box every single time. Everyone knows it's happening. This, at least you have some variety and guys can overlap him, and then he can use his burst to get to the byline and cut the ball back. How many times have we been missing that this entire offense of somebody getting to the end line, cutting the ball back, whether it's Denke, Evander, now Buka making that run in. Like, you're going to have options there, and those goals will find if they can make that a consistent part of the offense. And Luka is one of those guys that can make those one-on-one runs, but he's got to track back. You can't just bail. So having Obi be further back, and then having somebody like Hadebe maybe being further back, maybe that helps you and makes that not so glaring. But it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate spot for Flores, but it's that's this league, man. Well, that's a U22 learning moment for him.
Yeah, no doubt. And I honestly, I liked Flores getting the start in this match over Hadeb, for the sake that, and I think it was intentional. We had some rotation for sure. But Atlanta, if you think back to the Atlanta match, we got beat over the top consistently. There was no pace on that back line. And this was probably the fastest back three that we've had all season, with Flores, with Robinson, and we know how fast Alvis Powell is. So the pace on that back line was fantastic, right? And so I think there was probably a strategic move to get Flores back there. He ran his butt off in the first half, and I think you're right. I think he makes that save in the first half. Second half, he just doesn't have the legs to track. He doesn't have the legs to cut. He doesn't have the legs to do it. And so maybe the thinking was, we put a fast guy that's going all out on that left side behind Orishano. The guy's fast. The guy's going to track anybody, but he just didn't have the gas to maintain in that second half. I think there could be more to come with that partnership if they can develop that. Hadeb, to me, is not the guy yet. Like, he's big, he's solid, but I've seen so many mistakes. I've seen enough mistakes from him to think, I don't know if it's him or Flores. I could be wrong here. If you think so, let us know in the chat tonight. But I that left center back spot is kind of a wild card for me so far this season when Miazga's out and Robinson's not there.
I mean, and that's where the Nick Hagglund injuries comes in such a play here, because you could easily put Robinson back there and let Luka run as far north as he wants to, because you know that Miles Robinson's going to be covering his back on the left side, and you trust him on an island any time of the week. But all of a sudden your depth is a question mark.
Yeah. We got a comment in the chat from Nicholas about our takes on Orishano on the left. I'd just say we just kind of wrapped that segment up. If you want to just go back in the show just a little bit, we think Orishano did really well, other than defensively on that left side. Moving on, though, the second half of the game, again, there's collapse there in moments. Again, we've talked about overall, though, like they quit moving forward. We held possession, but shots on goal took a dive in the second half. Our creativity up top. When Dotto came in, it sparked something, right? I think Dotto, again, we've talked about him a lot. I talk about him a lot, but I think he might be the creative piece that we're missing in that top three, right? I thought I thought Evander would be that, and I think Evander's great. I think Evander's creative, but he needs a second guy. And Dotto, the way he runs into space, the way he tracks where the ball is, and there was one moment late in the game, right before he scored. Actually, I think he's watching the defender. He cuts back. He's watching the right side defender, Yedlin. I think at that point, bringing the ball up. And he's got his back to goal. He's about at midfield. And I'm like, what is he doing? He is so far back. The ball went to the right side, a little bit further, a little bit higher, and he immediately turns and breaks to the near post. And I thought, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. Like, he found the space. He knew where the space was. And that's something that I think in that position, that pairing, whether it's him and Orishano on the right or him and Evander in the middle, is something that I'd like to see more of. And maybe that guy's earning his starting spot moving forward, but he's come in and he's proven that he's got what it takes there, and I like what I see in Dotto. Do you like him as a starter, or do you like him as a late game sub?
I mean, I know he, we keep talking about the lack of killer instinct on this team, right? He's proven that, he's developing into someone who can finish, especially late in games. So I would hate to lose that, obviously, late in the games, but if he's match fit, I'd love to develop those. I think I value more developing those relationships, especially with Evander and with those guys up front, where they can anticipate one another. In the first half, we saw some really good combination play that I felt we kind of lost moving in the second half. Except for there was a few times where Yedlin was able to redirect it off the goal line extended and sending things back. We saw that 2 or 3 times on him, which was lovely. But getting Dotto in those dangerous areas, and also you're talking about on the field at the same time as Denke, so Denke can draw some attentions away as well. Maybe get him in a few other opportunities to see how he does earlier in games. I mean, I hate to talk about chemistry halfway through the year,
right?
But it's still a ongoing problem for this unit, which is funny to talk about when they scored 3 goals, but it is. It's still something that we're talking, because we know that this really should be the Death Star supernova offense that we see the potential of it is, right? You talk about some of its parts, and we see its potential. But I think getting him in earlier in matches, starting those, even if he's just a 60-minute kind of guy, can help build those relationships and might actually pull Evander farther up as well. I noticed later in the game he was kind of sinking back, sitting in that position, and I think that'll help that combination play and those relationships and help Evander in distribution as well.
Yeah, there were moments that even Buka pushed really high, and Evander had to drop in into that role because Buka was pushing forward into that space. Josh, I think you're about to say something.
No, yeah, I mean, I was just gonna there's not much to add. You guys nailed that. Like, I love Dotto's anticipation. That it's that connection with Evander that he seems to have picked up so quickly. Like, it's again that same kind of like unspoken, like, I just kind of know where this guy wants me to go, so I'm gonna run to it. And I mean, we go back to what Evander said. I mean, the words out of his mouth spoke volumes weeks ago, where it was, he sees the bright future of this kid. I mean, that speaks a lot. And like, yeah, I don't know what he's got to do, what more he has to do to get that time. I try to maybe think like, okay, he starts on Sunday and he's part of the rotation. Maybe that is Pat Noonan's way of saying this is a guy that we want to protect, but at the same time, like, Buka's playing every minute, Evander's playing every minute, Denke's playing every minute. It's like, I think it's time for Dotto to kind of join that group of attacking pieces. And Nate, like you said, like, I love the idea of him and Evander being able to play off of each other, whether it's Evander pushing high and being in the attack, or it's Dotto running high. In our Slack, Ken, former friend of the pod and OG, had a great kind of thought of maybe Evander's best spot is next to Buka as a deep lying midfield, like a deep lying playmaker. And maybe that's where you have Dotto can play in front of them as a false nine, second number 10. That's just a super interesting combo that, like, okay, maybe this triangle between the three of them can be something that can develop and spark and unlock an offense that maybe we hadn't even really thought about yet. And so I just like the ideas of what Dotto can bring to you as a midfielder, as a second striker, as a winger, as somebody that can kind of play all around that final third and just bring you a different option that this offense hasn't seen yet.
Yeah. And I wonder if a formation change, if we will see a formation change that could drop Evander back a little bit, because there's two center backs there. Like if you lose Obi because you're putting Evander there, you're losing a significant piece on the defensive side of the ball. And so that's the trade-off, right? If you move Evander back, you don't get the defensive work that Obi puts in. You get the creativity up in front of them potentially. So, yeah, I think that's a struggle with where to put him, or that's a big question that we could land on for a while. Maybe later we'll see what Coach Noonan does with it. I just want to say this. I want to throw Justin's comment up there. He says it's never too late for USL Championship for Dotto, and I just want to say, Justin Blair, you've been banned from CST for the rest of the show. No more, no more comments from
Get him
you.
out.
You don't think he'd look good in a Hartford Athletic green?
Oh no.
That would be the first jersey. I would be parked outside of the Hartford Athletic sporting everything and just waiting. I'll pick him up from the airport. I will be his personal chauffeur.
I used to live right next
No
to the
problem.
stadium. I'd be all about it. I was like a 5-minute walk from it. It was great.
Oh man. Hey, we've got some questions that we want to ask. We don't have Coach Noonan on the program. We don't have Chris Albright, but if we did, we have some questions we want to ask of these two gentlemen, and we want to give you an opportunity to drop your questions in the chat. So before we get there, we do want to thank our second half show sponsor, Beyond Exercise. You know them well if you're a listener of the show. They're a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. In fact, they've helped some of our MLS Next, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. And we may even see a little bit from Nick Haglund there again in his rehab from his recent surgery that apparently went very well, thankfully. All right, so gentlemen, questions that we as fans have for this team that we think need answers here sooner than later. Josh, I'm just going to throw it to you. If you had an opportunity to ask Coach Noonan or Chris Albright a question or two that you would love to see answered, like they're the two most pressing things on your mind right now, what would those questions be?
So I alluded to it earlier when, in his post-game press conference, Pat was pretty fired up and called, used a myriad of words to describe the team's performance of, embarrassing and just every word. I'm drawing a blank on the exact thoughts, but it was he had some choice words for the effort and the way that this team is apparently not responding to what their messaging is in the way that they can execute a game plan and close out a game. So my initial thought is, okay, what is the messaging that's being delivered to this team? What are they not understanding? And where's the disconnect between what the messaging that the coaching staff has and what the players are doing out on the field? And I'll give credit to Pavel Buka, who took ownership a little bit from the players' perspective and saying, it's not on Pat for him to execute. Pat doesn't make our decisions for us. So, he took some heat for that. Pat took some blame for all of the things. So everyone's saying the right things. What is the message that's being lost? And if the message is being lost for so long, when is it time to change the message? Like, I can't wrap my brain around week in and week out. It's saying the effort is not there. The execution's not there. We're telling these guys to do these things and they're not doing them. Our decision making is poor, or execute this, that, and another thing. Like, okay, we're this far along. At what point do we need to throw out that message, erase whatever is on the whiteboard or the chalkboard, and pick something new, pick a different thing? Like, when do we switch what is being directed towards these guys to get them to understand like how to finish these games out, or how to jump ahead in these games, and not have to struggle and cling to these one goal victories that the only way it would seem we know how to win, or to see out a game to get the points needed. It's just kind of boggling my mind that we're this far along and these comments are still being had.
Yeah. We talked last season, or the Shield winning season, right, about commentators saying Cincinnati finds a way, they always find a way. And that was like the mantra all season. And it's the same mantra in reverse this year. It feels like that Cincinnati always finds a way to lose or to drop points that they have going into the second half or end of the game. Just is struggle. So, Josh, if I could answer that question, I think the message needs to be, hey guys, we're still playing soccer. Like, there's a second half to play. Keep your heads in it, right? Like, that's the message that needs to go through that somehow is not going through. Nathan, if you had a question to ask, what's the pressing one or two questions on your mind?
I think specifically for Pat Noonan, and I'm going to give the little bit of the unrational, just straight thoughts. I'll give my rational thoughts later, but who is this team? Right? What is this team's identity going to be? Right? We're halfway through the season, Pat. We're halfway through the season. Right? Like, we cannot have a major talking point being the composition of this roster and its chemistry halfway through the year, right? I mean, we're getting closer to that summer window, right? We didn't do much in the summer window next year, right? Like, if this is what we're talking about at the middle of the year, it's tough. It's tough, right? And we have a ton of commitment and a ton of support from ownership. We spent a ton of money. We're maxing out cap space. We don't really have a whole lot of gam left to go with it, right? And realistically, on paper, this team looks fantastic. It looks like one of the best in the league, right? And it seems like this season we've stumbled onto success, some happy accidents here and there. And what we want to see is intentionality in this team's identity. And because this team just can't perform to be worse than the sum of its parts, right? Like, we gotta perform to our talent level. And they've done that for the most part into the season. It's just been I think a frustrating first half for most fans. Because as we said, I think we've seen this offense. Hopefully the offense and the defense were going to be a perfect marriage this year, and not the deficits that we saw in imbalance in 2022 and 2023.
Yeah. So Cliff Adams, thankfully, brings a little bit of perspective here. And he says, look, we had an undefeated April and we're in second place. So the fact he called me out on the context for my comment. And to be fair, here's the thing. We're Cincinnati sports fans. There's always something to complain about. And so sometimes you forget about where we're at and you look at what have you done for me lately. And so that's what it feels like. And that's the point that I'm sitting in at this point. So good perspective there. Appreciate that, Cliff. My question here, if I could ask one, is, we've already talked about struggling to finish games and things like that would have been one of mine, but who are we bringing in this summer? Like, do we have our eye on someone that would be a wing back or a winger? Because here's the thing. Our strikers, we have Kevin Denke, $16 million man, Golden Boot winner in Belgium. We brought in Kai Kamara, 40 years old, but second leading scorer in MLS history. The guy, you saw it a couple times in this last match. He gets his head on a ball that no one else on the Cincinnati squad is getting their head on, and he puts dangerous balls in out of the air, right? We've got guys that thrive on crosses, can finish the ball, and we're asking them to create for themselves. We're asking them to play with their backs to goal, to turn. The crosses that we put in this season that have been good, for the most part, we finished, right? Even if it was on a bicycle, from the outside of the box that Orishano puts in. Denke scores. Denke finishes. Buka finishes on a cross from Yedlin in this last match. Dado Valenzuela has finished 2 balls off crosses that have come from just outside the box or just inside the edge of the box. We have guys that can finish on crosses. The question is, when will we get a guy that will consistently send balls into the box with a target in mind and not just send a ball blindly into the box, hoping a striker is going to get on the end of it? That's my big question, and that's what I want to see in the summer transfer window coming up. I know we've got a ways to go before we get there, but we also have quite a break with Leagues Cup coming up in a couple weeks here and the Club World Cup. We've got a bit of a break. Let's sit back, let's get some rest, and let's evaluate some players that we can bring in either on the right or the left. The question there, though, or that begs the question, Josh, what money do we have to bring guys in? And how do we get more money to bring guys in?
I mean, that is the crux of it, right? And, you know, I put Rupresh's comment in there is you really can only bring in, he's right, you can really bring in a U22 player without getting rid of some players. So as of May 1st, with the league has been more transparent this year than ever of posting, you know, roster profiles and the like. So, you know, grain of salt if you believe that MLS is posting every detail of what teams have available to them. Miami. What? It's all right. But as of now, as of May 1st, it has FC Cincinnati listed as $206,000 in GAM. This does not have what the salary cap space is, but essentially what the salary cap space is allotted right now is a U22. You have a lot of money tied up in a lot of resources that currently aren't either holding their weight or aren't really doing anything or aren't even getting on the field. And, you know, Yuya Kubo's been hurt a lot. He's making a lot of money. Corey Baird can't get on the field except for a last 10 minutes where he's now playing wingback. Like, that was not why he's getting paid close to $1 million, if not more than that, and eating up a lot of salary cap space. I mean, we know Sergio Santos has been the hot topic for years now. He is a $1 million plus player. And he's starting to get some minutes and putting in good minutes too, by the way, like not just being out there for nothing. Him and Kevin Denke do seem to have a halfway decent partnership where you can at least offer something different. So maybe he sticks around for another year, but you have some dead weight on this roster that you need to get rid of if you really want to reshape these things. Because as we literally just saw, trusting a U22 to come right in and be a immediate contributor is a fool's errand. It's really playing a gambling game that has not really proven to be useful by anyone in this league, much less FC Cincinnati. So if you're pinning your hopes that Chris Albright's got the magic U22 midfielder who can also play striker, who can also play wingback out there, and that's all you need, great. Sign me up, plot him in, MLS Cup, here we come. But the reality is that there's going to be multiple pieces that need to be added to this roster that's going to help you contribute in a way that you really want to push come October, you know, September, October time. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I also put it in our notes there of like my comment to Chris Albright is the front office and the coaching staff aligned on these needs, right? Like Kevin Denke was a signing that wasn't, you know, not saying that Pat Noonan wasn't a part of that deal, but that is a signing that Chris Albright makes because you're presented with an opportunity to sign an elite level striker and you give him to Pat Noonan and say, hey, here's your striker, put him in the best spot. You're now at a time where I don't know if you have that luxury. So those two pieces, Pat Noonan and Chris Albright, need to be in lockstep about exactly where they want to go with this roster, because the margins are thin, so you really can't waste these spaces. So it's a very important summer coming up.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Nathan, I just throw it to you on that conversation. And I do want to get to. I promise we'd get to Lucho Acosta and his play, his return to TQL, and his comments after the game. So I do want to get to that. Any thoughts?
My fault.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
no. We're good. We're good. Any thoughts to wrap up this part of the conversation about like Cincinnati has, just to kind of lay a foundation for you or to tee you up, maybe, I don't know where you're going to go with this, but we've elected a 2 DP system, like, and then 4 U22s optional. We have 1 U22 and 2 DPs. We have an opportunity this summer to switch to the 3 DPs. Do we do that, or do we pick up a couple more young U22s? To do that, we got to drop some players. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I definitely agree with Josh, right? In the context of that, right? I mean, I think you have a few guys. I mean, if you're going to do anything, right, you got to look at guys like Santos. You got to look at guys like Baird. I mean, Engel's a big hit as well on that cap. I mean, and he's had a little bit of a roller coaster of a season as well. I don't think that there are very many golden gooses, right? There's not any not very many pieces that I think as you start to get into the bench, right, in the lower end of the roster, where you're not afraid to turn things over. I don't think Chris is. But a lot of the guys that we're talking about, I mean, if you're looking at a baseball stat, are they going to be a high WAR guy, right? Wins above replacement, right? Like what? I mean, yes, right. It's great to say, okay, yes, Santos is a cap hit, Baird is a cap hit, right? But you also got to talk about who you're going to replace that production with, right? Because Santos has put in valuable minutes, right? Engel from time to time has put in valuable minutes, right? Kubo's put in valuable minutes. I know he's been a guy with injury on and off the bench. So I guess more specifically to answer your question, I personally like the 3DP. Maybe that's just the allure of something shiny and getting another person in there with that. But I think just with the way that Chris has built this roster through max TAM deals, right, and other things, it puts you in a position where if you can offload a few guys, you can bring in that third DP and push to win now. You want to think about the future. You don't want to sacrifice the future, but I think we're in MLS Cup or bust kind of mode this season.
Yeah.
And maybe the next season with our window.
Yeah.
Sean Pace makes a great point down there. Is Pat Noonan has not been keen on trusting a lot of young guys. I mean, we see it with Dado Valenzuela, who's not a U22, who seems to be one of the best players on the team right now, and he can't get in the starting lineup yet. So there is that thought that if this is a team making a push, this is a playoff win now team.
Yeah,
is a U22 route the way to go? Because you gotta hope that not only can they perform, but that you can trust them to perform.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, Justin, I told you you're banned from making comments, and so I'm not even going to put your comment up on the screen. Trying to sneak your way back in there with a U22 comment, but not tonight, my friend, not tonight. Hey, I promised we'd get to some talk of Lucho Acosta and his return to TQL, and we're a little bit later in the show than I anticipated we would get there, but there was talk leading up to this, how are Cincinnati fans going to respond to Lucho taking the pitch for FC Dallas in TQL Stadium? And the answer was with a resounding boos across the stadium. Now, I know some fans all on board. They're there just to boo Lucho. And some fans took offense to that. It was a strong reaction either way. Lucho felt strongly about it after the match. Nathan, I want to toss it to you first because we know that Josh is just hot and ready to talk about this. Give us your take on Lucho's return and the fans' response.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I blame him. I can't. Right? I mean, it was a pretty salty departure for the former MVP and Shield winner here. I think only adding salt onto the wound was his comments after the game that he had with some of the local media. It doesn't surprise me one bit with the boos. We were talking a little bit before the show, I know off air, of it might add some fuel to the fire, right, for Lucho. And so that's something I don't know if the fans are thinking of right when they're getting. I think it's kind of an emotionally charged moment there with that. But I mean, I don't mind it. I mean, if you're an opponent going into an opponent's stadium, I think you have to expect it, especially with the history that Lucho has had with his club.
No doubt. I equated it a little bit to Frankie Amaya, right? And people were upset with Frankie Amaya when he left Cincinnati and he said, I want out. Take me somewhere, anywhere else besides this team, which is one of the reasons that allowed us to pick up Lucho Acosta in the first place, because we had that number 10 we were trying to build around, and Frankie Amaya vacated. It gave us the opportunity to bring in Lucho Acosta a season later, if you remember that. And so to have Lucho Acosta leave in the way he did, I expected the boos, expected the vitriol from the fans, right? I would have been a little hesitant to boo a guy that we know what he can do in that stadium with a chip on his shoulder. So that was my hesitancy in booing him, even though his departure was poor. Josh, I want to allow you to speak your piece on this matter.
Well, I'll start with two caveats, right? So one, we know Lucho Acosta is an incredible player. He's an incredibly important player in the history of FC Cincinnati, and time will remember that, and there will be a time when this all kind of goes away, and we'll all be able to look back and look like, okay, yeah, look at the Lucho era, and they were great, and of course we will remember the things that he did on the pitch, and the supporter shield and the MVP and all of that. Time will get there because he was great. The second caveat is I'm never going to be somebody to tell anybody how to fan. You fan however you want to, boo, cheer, applaud, whatever. All I ask is you kind of let that give and take, right? So those caveats out there. I have incredibly zero sympathy for what happened to Lucho Acosta on Wednesday. It genuinely surprised me a little bit in the fact that it wasn't just the people that are in it like we are, right? We're sickos, we're diehards, we follow every pen, paper, everything written, spoken about this team we're in on. He got the boo treatment on every single time he touched the ball from everyone. And I don't blame anybody for doing it, because you can't exit the way that you exit and then cry wolf that you're being mistreated. And when he goes post game and says, I didn't deserve that, I brought this team, I brought an MVP, I brought a shield. Okay, so now you're just completely clueless then. You just have no self-awareness at all about how this situation was handled. And that I have a serious problem with. Time has passed, and you have still to this day refused to look in the mirror, look inward about, hey, maybe I shouldn't have handled things the way. I have some issues with some other people in the club. Great. Maybe I shouldn't have left the team early, or left the team immediately after, skipping local media and then popping up in Argentinian media days later and saying, I'm done with the club that I just signed a contract with, by the way. Not just, oh, my contract's up, I'm ready to go. This isn't a Trent Alexander-Arnold situation where his contract was up. He just signed a contract. This team made you the face of their team and handed you everything, and you spat in their face to nobody. Under no circumstances did anyone think this was a capability. So I have a serious problem with you saying I didn't deserve it. You absolutely deserved it, because this fan base pays the money, they do all of the things, they support this team like hell, and you were their idol. You were the idol of this team, and then you just bailed out of nothing because Chris Albright sent your friends away. Oh, by the way, some of them asked to leave, so we rewarded them by sending them elsewhere. And then the salary, understand, have some self-awareness, understand what you're saying before you open your mouth again. And Lucho refuses to do it. And so I can't, you asked for this. You asked for this treatment by handling it the way that you did. and then you showed up late, and you did every step along the way was the wrong step, and fans won't forget that. And so, no, I have no sympathy for Lucho Acosta. And I promised everyone I would make this analogy in the thing, because I made the analogy in it. This team bought you a golden bed. You had a luxurious, beautiful golden bed. It's safe, it's secure, it's comfort, it's everything. And the only thing you did was take a giant dump on it. That's how you treated that. That's how you treated what this team gave you. You pooped on the bed, and then you went on and said, "Well, why is everyone mad at me? What? Who? Like, I pooped it? What? Yeah, don't poop in the bed. You're getting in trouble for that. It's insane to me. Like, yes, you get in trouble for doing the things that you did because you did them, and then you have no self-awareness that you did them. So no, get out of here. Like, I'm done with Lucho Acosta for at least the next like 5 years. Like, I don't boo him every single time, because I'm out. Like, until he admits some kind of self-awareness, I'm out. Like, I'm soured. I'm completely soured on Lucho Acosta.
I don't get that impression at all. Do you, Nathan?
No. Yeah, I mean, I understand
fan
totally where it's coming from. I mean, Josh, fans. I mean, he took out a full page ad in the Inquirer to write a love letter to the city, right? I mean, the fan base loved the way that he spoke about how, I mean, his kids were in school here and this was his home, right? And those things. And so I totally understand the reaction with that. And great comment there from Justin, right? Can we put that up there, Brian?
I don't know. He's been banned. He
snuck his way in. Oh, Nate, let the door open.
He's trying so hard.
Yeah. No, Justin says perhaps someone should remind Lucho that it's called the Supporter Shield. Everyone under the badge brought that shield home. And I think that's where this betrayal hits at the heart of it, right? It was a little bit of an E2 Lucho, right? I think, right? And a little bit of that. With this fan base, I mean, had suffered some losses, obviously, with beloved players like Barrial, right? Moving on for other ambitions and things like that. But here was a guy, right, who I know he wanted to go to Boca and other opportunities that didn't exactly pan out. But it hurts, I think, even especially more that he ended up in Dallas, which did help us on the salary side of it. And, I mean, it's a good thing he's in the Western Conference, right? But even just to stay here in the U.S. with that, I think is, I think a tough pill for this club and fan base to swallow.
Yeah. So to play not totally the opposite side of this, because I feel much the same way in a lot of this, right? But we don't know what happens behind the scenes, right? We don't know what changed. You know, Lucho loves the city. Lucho wants to raise his kids here. Something happened in the front office that he was upset about, and he played his cards very, very poorly. I 100% agree with that. Never been in a professional athlete, never been in their shoes, never worked with an agent, with an ownership group. I don't know that situation, so I'm just playing devil's advocate here. But again, I will 100% agree. The way it was brought to light, his feelings, the way he, again, didn't show up on local media. And I don't think it was days. I think it was 30 minutes later. He was on ESPN Argentina talking about his aspirations potentially of going there, right? He had an issue with front office. He had an issue with maybe the way some of his friends were treated, which didn't come out until beginning of this season, when we're still trying to figure out where's he going to go, what are we going to do, how much money can we get for him, because he doesn't want to be here, right? And then after the match, now look, I don't speak Spanish. I wish I spoke it better. I took 5 years of it in middle school and high school, and I wish I remembered more of it. So translation has been wrong, right? In the past, his comments after the match were a little confusing last season after the New York City FC match. His comments, we've just taken them at face value, the English translation of his comments saying, they should respect me. I was very upset, and they should respect me for what I've done for the city. Maybe was accurate, and if that is 100% accurate, I have a problem with that. Like, I did this, you should. At that point, like, you do it, you don't say it. And if you want the respect, you earn the respect. You don't say you should get respect. And so that's my problem in those post-game comments with what Lucho had to say. I do agree with, who was that? Sean Pace said, I'm glad he's playing for Dallas and we only see them every 4 or 5 years. We may not have to deal with this again, and hopefully that is the case. So all that to say, big feelings about Lucho Acosta's return. I'm sure the conversation will continue on this week. I know it was big news nationally. It wasn't just in Cincinnati that Lucho Acosta's coming back to TQL. It took over. It was a storyline that took over a 3-3 draw in a game with, a 13th against the number 2 seed. And unfortunately, that's the way it went down, and it will continue. I do want to say this as before we get to our final thoughts here. We are running a few minutes long. I want to get to our final thoughts.
That's Thursday, baby. It's Thursdays.
We run
hot. We run hot on Thursdays. We do, we just keep going.
We do. And the funny thing is we didn't have much in our rundown. We've just talked and ranted on a lot of this stuff tonight. I think it's been really fun. I do want to highlight, we talk about perspective, and Cliff has brought some perspective to some things earlier. But one of the things we keep hearing is Kevin Denke and his lack of offensive output, right? Like this guy, we expected so much from him. And just to bring some perspective, the guy has 9 goals. He's tied for 3rd in the Golden Boot race in his first season in MLS, which is pretty unheard of for a guy to transition from a world league overseas to this league. And the change that we experience, that he experiences, the travel that's involved for a guy that has 9 goals. He's 4 off the lead and could be way in the lead with some other chances that he just missed and whatever this year. So the guy is performing, the guy is putting goals in, and looking forward maybe this summer to a winger coming in that can get the ball to him and Kai Kamara later this season to score some goals. So anyway, let's get to our final thoughts. Nathan, I want to start with you as we wrap up the show.
Great.
Bring some sanity back to Cincinnati Soccer Talk.
So I know we've had a little bit of a crazy episode, crazy night. I know I've had some takes and some emotionally charged comments, but we're bringing the sanity back. We're going to take a little bit of a sobering moment. I saw last night on the bright side, MLS PR posted a stat. It's a fun little tidbit they put out after the game that FC Cincinnati, the FC, is the first team in MLS history to produce at least 30 points within the first 16 games of a season in 3 consecutive years. They're the first team to ever do it, right? And what that demonstrates is it's sustained success, right? We suffered through some long years to start MLS, those wooden spoon years, right? And so I'm incredibly grateful that we have an ownership that's willing to spend, correct mistakes, right? To put investment in this roster right now. Say what you will about the status of this team, right? But they found ways to win early. And it puts them in a position to be successful as we hit the summer window. And we've had sustained success for 3 years, consecutive playoff runs. And I am grateful to see where the team is headed. And grateful for these last couple of years. And I think that was a great reminder of that last night.
Yeah. Good shout there. I want to jump in before we go to you, Josh, on Rupesh's comment about when you run over every week, it's the new normal. I just look back at our past episodes. We're at like a minute or an hour 5, an hour 7, an hour 1, 59 minutes in our last episode. So we're not going all that long. But yeah, maybe it is. Maybe we should call this a 1 hour and 7 minute show. That's the new norm. All right, Josh, final thoughts.
Listen, I will preemptively apologize and not apologize for bringing the heat on a Thursday. These Thursday ones are gonna go long. Nate and I only get so much time. So even though I feel like it's mostly me just ranting and raving for long stretches of time. Nate and I need our platform, and dang it, we're gonna take it. So my final thought. And I'll be in the same vein here. I've said this in other places. I probably have said it here as well. And I've definitely wrote about it in our preseason kind of preview predictions. This season is all about MLS Cup. Like that is the goal. Anything that happens along the way, any Supporter Shield, Leagues Cup, any other major accolades, winning streaks, anything like that, gravy, awesome, love it. This for me is about getting this team ready to make a deep run into MLS Cup. So if this team needs to take time and find another piece or two, or change things up or whatever, and that means dropping points, and that means come September this team is in 5th or 6th, like that's fine. This is a playoff team. That's what this team is built to be, and this team needs to be built to make a run come October. So yes, the vibes are weird now. Yes, everything is bad, but there is still so much time. Like we talk about, we're only halfway through the season. The season starts in October, realistically. Like, yes, you need to maintain momentum. You need to get into the playoffs to win MLS Cup. But I think because of the roster, the way this is constructed, and the way that we have seen this team in stretches already this season, with the defensive capabilities that this team we know they have, and apparently with the offensive output that is starting to kind of put some pieces together, this is the makeup of a playoff team. The rest of the season needs to be putting all of the pieces together still. And yes, it's frustrating that we're still saying that question, but until it's September, if we're asking these questions in September and we're flirting with the playoff line, I'm not terribly worried yet. We're still waiting and seeing. I'm still waiting and seeing the best of this team, and I think they still have that in them. Now, if everything goes awry, if they get beat to DC this weekend by 4-0, sure, ask some harder questions. But until we get to the late season and those questions are still being asked, everyone just breathe a little bit. Everyone just breathe, because it's a long stretch still to go. And if the goal is to get a star over the badge, everything is still in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's good. My final thought is in a similar vein here, is that as I look at the pieces that this team has assembled in the offseason and the things that they're bringing in, the chemistry that's being developed in different phases of the game and different parts of the season, this team could be extremely dangerous come playoff time. Could be. That's the word. This team could be extremely dangerous. Look, we've seen them play very sound on the defensive side of the ball, better than maybe we expected early in the season, a little shaky at times, but still holding teams out of the net, right? We've seen Celentano play out of his mind differently than he has last year. Like, he's grown in his leadership. He's back to his shot-stopping self. He's played out of his mind. Like, we've seen the defensive side of the ball be really strong. We have started to see the offensive side of the ball get stronger with 3 goals going in, looking like we were going to take the game, 2 goals in the first half, and just run away with it. Scoring a 3rd goal in the second half of the game, thinking we could still run away with this game. Defensively, we broke down. We've seen matches where our midfield looked unstoppable, passing balls around defenders like they were standing still, like you do in a training session with cones and, stakes in the ground. We've also seen our midfield give up more passes than they completed in games and send our defense on their heels on a counterattack, chasing a counterattack. If we could put 3 phases of a complete game together, which I don't know that we've seen yet this season, I think we see high offensive output. I think we see stout defense. And I think we see Buka and Obi, or whoever's that back 2 pairing is at the 6 and the 8, just dominate and control the game, progress the ball forward like we've seen them in flashes. The team could be dangerous. I don't want to wait till September to see that. I want to start seeing that sooner than later. Now, I know at the beginning of the season, we kept saying if we're asking these questions in April, at the end of April, we got a problem. And now we're saying if we ask these questions in September, we might have a problem. We are seeing progression, but we're seeing regression in some phases of the game as well. And so I'd like to see this team put some things together like we did last year, ironically, against Miami about this point in the season when we shifted to what we now call the sword formation and hung 6 goals on Miami last season. Maybe it's time for another formation change to get Luka higher up the pitch, get a true right and left back, that shift well, progress the ball forward. I know coach has been screaming that all season. Maybe we'll see that at this point. Who knows? But this team could be dangerous. All the pieces are there. Thanks for joining us this week for some crazy talk here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk on this special Thursday night edition. We'll see you next time on Monday here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk.